everyone. My name is Grandio, and as you all know, I'm starting this channel for the purpose of learning about the gospel, learning about Jesus, learning about life, realities of life, etc., etc. To just help us apply it in our day-to-day activities, and that's just the hang of it. I'll be posting a video every first of the month, and let's see how it goes from there. So today I really just want to talk about Jesus, and I want to talk about I think it's in Matthew. I think it's in Matthew. So let me quickly grab my Bible. So this is my Bible. It's literally falling apart. It has a lot of tips here and there. But you know what they say, a Bible that is falling apart is usually owned by someone who isn't. So I guess that's my consolation. So I want to talk about Matthew chapter 5, verse 43. And before I read this verse, I want to read something by a philosopher, Friedrich Nietzsche. For people that read, I'm sure they will know who Friedrich Nietzsche is. He's a German philosopher, and for the record, he's not even a Christian, but somehow what he said really correlates with Matthew 5 verse 43. And Friedrich Nietzsche was born in the 18th century. That's about 18 centuries after Jesus, probably. And he said something that is very profound. And before I read it, one of the things I've learned from studying and learning is that there is a level of understanding that you can only unlock through meditation. I used to believe the more you read, the more you know. But sometimes you need to stop reading and actually digest what you just finished reading. So that's one of the things I've learned, and I think people should practice meditation as much as they practice reading. So Friedrich Nietzsche said, from his book Beyond Good and Evil. So Friedrich Nietzsche said, "He who fights with monsters should look to it that he himself does not become a monster. And if you gaze long into an abyss, the abyss also gazes into you." What he meant was, when you constantly, battle evil, corruption, or darkness, injustice, things like that are not really morally upright, you risk becoming like the very thing you oppose. Basically trying to say is, there's a certain level of war, hate, resentment that you actually feel for somebody that increases the likelihood of you becoming like them. And a classical example is how we react to people when people treat us very badly. Many of us don't like inconsiderate people. We don't like people that are inconsiderate. We don't like people that are naggy. We don't really like people like that. And sometimes people do things without the consideration of how others feel. And things like that can make us snap. Some people have very bosses at work that are just, their characters are repulsive, etc., stuff like that. And let me give you this illustration. If, for instance, I disliked maybe one of my colleagues at work, probably because he's inconsiderate, always, selfish, always wants, things to himself, want to have the best seat, the best sports, the best this, the best that, regardless of how it makes other people feel. I really won't like him because of the character he portrays, right? Now, this is where it starts to get wicked. I begin to hate him. I begin to detest him. I begin to abhor him to the extent that I wake up one day and I'm like, I've had enough. When we get to that point where everybody has been there, you get to that point where you snap and you're like, I've had enough. Today, I'm going to give him a taste of his own mercy. And that day, I structurally plan ways in which I can make him feel, or I plan ways I can be inconsiderate to him or her. It's just an illustration. And I successfully execute it that day because I've had enough. I would justify myself by saying, I'm giving him a taste of his own mercy. I really won't feel bad. I really won't question my actions, because I feel like this is the kind of person he is and he deserves a taste of his mercy. So where it starts to get wicked is the fact that I really don't realize that in the process of trying to give him a taste of his own mercy because he's an inconsiderate person, I myself has become inconsiderate. Most people don't really get that that in the process of trying to, pay somebody, do me I do you, man no go best. I'm sure we are familiar with, things like that. In the process of trying to do somebody how they do us, now we've become, the very thing we hate. We've become like that person. If you are somebody that hates murderers, people that murder, and you hate them to the point that you make up your mind, you want to reduce and limit the number of murderers that are on planet Earth, and you began to kill murderers. You might not have first noticed, but at some point, you yourself, you have become a murderer. In as much as we try to justify it, you yourself now, you are also a murderer. You've become the very thing you hate. So what Friedrich Nietzsche was trying to say is that when you hate your enemies or you hate people that do things you don't like, to a certain level, you mirror them. You mirror them. It's like you see, it might take a while, but you see them in you. And that's just the reality of it. So how does it really correlate to Matthew chapter 5 verse 43? Sorry, how does it correlate? Jesus said, "You have heard that it was said that you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies, bless those who curse you, do good to those who hate you, and pray for those who spitefully use you and persecute you." I've always been, somebody to actually question everything. The first time I heard this, love your enemies, I'm like, God, what the hell? This is stupid. This is bullshit. I'm sure all of us, everybody watching this video, I'm sure we had that kind of, mindset of where is the sense in this, Many years ago, I eventually concluded that, love your enemies, pray for those who persecute you. It's all about showing, love. The love of Jesus Christ, the love of God, the greatest is love. I concluded that is a way to show, love, to be a perfect disciple of Jesus, because that's what Jesus did. Jesus died for those who loved him and for those who hated him, So that's how I concluded it. But when I was like reading this around, early this year, stroke late last year, and I was meditating upon it in relation to what the German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche said, I realized that it is more than just showing love. Loving your enemies is a form of protection. It's a form of protection because when you love your enemies, when you pray for them, it stops you from hating them. It prevents you from getting to the point where you want to revenge, stuff like that. And that revenge is what makes you like them. Something we can all agree on is the fact that we are all guilty of this. We are all guilty of, revenging in one precarious situation or the other, and we don't exactly feel bad for it. That's the thrilling aspect of it all. When people do it to us, we are vexed, we are angry, and we look at them like, don't you see how your actions, affect us? But when we revenge, we justify it in our hearts. He deserves it because that's the kind of person he is. So Jesus actually gave a solution, an antidote to a problem that will exist 18th century later. That was what Jesus did. As at the time of Jesus, I doubt we had philosophers like this that will actually study, human behavior and human response to things. So I really just want to urge us to always be careful. Be careful. It's not an easy thing to love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. But can you see, it's not only a way of showing love, it's also a way of, protecting yourself from becoming the very thing you hate. So thank you. That's really just what I want to, educate people on how hating your enemies can make you become like them. And Jesus gave the antidote to this in Matthew chapter 5 verse 43. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for watching. I'm really not I just really want people to learn via this channel, and I really don't care about likes, comments. I just really, if only one person learns something from this video, then that's it for me. The work is done. That's really my goal. That's really my goal, for people to just learn a lot about God and about how we can live a much more better, peaceful life, how we can heal the world, literally. So thank you very much for watching. See you next month.